Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon to all of you from here in Dubai, and welcome to our session today, which has a focus on millennials. My name is Sam Champong. I'm the head of CIPS, Middle East and North Africa. But wherever you are in the world, thanks for taking the time to join us. You're all very welcome. Whether you're a millennial or if you're younger or older, I'm sure you'll find today's session riveting. We'll hear the stories of the journeys of how people ended up in procurement and what's next for them on their journey. We have an impeccable panel to take us through this session, and I'm looking forward to chatting to them. We have great representation from Africa, the UK, the Middle East, and I'd like to welcome Isimemi Ugele, who's the sourcing business partner from Ericsson in Nigeria. We have Rawan Hussein, the procurement manager, SABB Bank in Saudi Arabia, Sheikha Al Marzouki, procurement officer at the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority in the United States, Lucy Elric, category manager for Severn Trent Water in the UK, and actually updated, currently now working as a membership development manager for CIPS in our head office in the UK. So guys, you're all very welcome to the session today. And yeah, without further ado, let's make a start. So Issy, if you're with us, tell us, how did you get into procurement?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Sam. Thank you very much for this session. So for me, I, like most people, when you hear their stories, also stumbled into procurement. So I had heard about the profession. I know that, procurement involves buying, but I didn't immediately see myself, being in the profession. So I had studied in the university. I have a BSc in economics from the University of Essex in England. And at the time, the logical next step after I completed my studies was to probably apply for a master's degree, And being from Nigeria, which is an oil producing, country, I thought, okay, let me apply for oil and gas economics or energy economics so that I could, go into that sector. But then I also had a sort of yearning to get some work experience, before just going into a master's degree. I wanted to take some time off, get some work experience so that I can make a better informed decision for this master's application. Because I did apply to certain universities. I did get the application, but I just had a yearning that let me get some work experience. So I decided to take some time off. So I decided to take some time off, take a year out after I've completed my studies. And at the time, in Nigeria, we have something called a national service. So you come back home for 1 year, do a paramilitary service. So I came back to Nigeria, did that for 1 year, and then I started to apply for jobs. So again, because I studied economics, I could apply anywhere. I applied to different companies. And then I saw the application at my current company, Ericsson, for a purchase to pay administrator, So I looked at the job description. I saw that, I fit, I applied for it, and here we are. So at the time at Ericsson, we won a significant contract with the telecoms operator. And so they were looking for a purchase to pay administrator, someone who will handle the transactional end of procurement, making sure the vendors get paid on time, making sure their purchase orders are issued on time. And so that was my initial role, and that was how I, came into procurement. And I think it was very, very interesting because that was I started working at the process end. Yes, Sam?
Oh, we lost you for a second. Issy, carry on.
Okay. So I started at the transactional end of sourcing and journeyed my way to the process end. So I was working as the sourcing functional development manager, responsible for the processes, the framework. And then now my current role is a buyer. So I'm currently a buyer sourcing business partner at Ericsson. So that was really my journey and how I came into the procurement profession. Thank you.
Interesting. So it's not something that you kind of aspire to do when you're in school, university, or indeed in military service. It's something that you, would you say you stumbled upon it, or something that you saw happening in an organization?
Yeah, so like I said, I stumbled on it really. I felt that I could do anything with, especially with my degree in economics, right? But when I was applying for this job, I saw the requirements. I saw that it was something I felt I could do. It was new for me, never done procurement before, but it was an exciting challenge. And so I applied for it, I got it, and I guess the rest is history. So that 1 year now that I was supposed to, do for my paramilitary service, for my work experience has turned to 7 years, this year being in the procurement profession. I guess procurement is so much fun, so exciting that it's hard to leave.
Excellent. And was that your expectation? The reality of what you've experienced in procurement so far, was that your expectation when you went into it, or is it totally different?
It's so, again, no expectations really. First time into the field, I was excited to learn something new, but I didn't anticipate that it would be this exciting. I think in procurement, no 2 days are the same. We're literally buying different things. So in a company, you're buying maybe from a mobile phone to a generator, and the procurement function is responsible for buying this, right? So I've had to buy or purchase items from industries that I never even imagine. I no 2 days are the same. So what I did yesterday, and literally yesterday I got a request for something I'd never heard of before. So you get to learn, you get to see different industries. It's a cross industry function. I didn't anticipate that it would be this exciting, but here we are.
Wow, fantastic. And by the way, going out to the audience, if anyone has any questions for our panelists, use the Q&A box below. Put your questions in there. We will put them to the panelists as we go along, and we will dedicate some time at the end of this session to ask your questions live as well. So Rowan, tell us, how did you get into procurement, Rowan, out in Saudi Arabia?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Sam, for the opportunity. I'm really honored to be speaking with you all. So I'm Rowan Al-Ghamdi. I am a strategic procurement manager. I work at the Saudi British Bank, SAB. Just like Esme, I started my journey in career by chance. So I graduated in 2010. I honestly didn't have a specific career in mind. I just wanted to get a job. So what happened is I got a job like around 4 months later after my graduation. I got a job in the National Guard Health Affairs as a secretary or admin assistant for the head of tenders department. So, being a secretary for the head, you have to, look into all the documents. Every little document would have to pass by you. So yes, I used to look into the documents, read what's in it, and then day by day, it started to get my attention. So I was like, what is this? What is this project that we're buying or procuring? So I started to have like chats with my colleagues, and some days I would really bother them and stay for like around an hour with them just to understand how do they do tenders, how do they publish it, how do they negotiate with vendors, how do they award and select a supplier. Day by day, it really got interesting for me. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to pursue my career in procurement. I want to be a procurement professional. And I had a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation with my manager at the time. I was like, okay, I'm interested in this and that, and I want to pursue my career in procurement field and so on. At the beginning, he was challenging me because, of course, he didn't want to lose his secretary. But at the end, he was like, you know what, it's a good choice. And he really was supportive. And so I decided, خلاص, I will pursue my career. I tried to stay in the same organization, but it had to take a very long time. So I decided to move to another organization. And since then, it's been now almost 10 years that I am working as a procurement professional. I've moved from healthcare industries, pharmaceuticals, travel and tourism, and recently banking industry. I would say procurement from an industry to another is very different. It's the same concept, but you're buying different goods and services. The suppliers that you deal with are very different, and also the systems, the policies and procedures, they're all different. And every time, it's a challenge, and it's also not just a challenge. It's a very interesting opportunity and day-to-day work that you do. So
It's interesting because actually there seems to be a similar start between yourself and Issy, in that you kind of went in an entry-level role to kind of see what this is all about, and
yeah,
you launched your career from there. So that's probably a different theme from, I guess, you guys are millennials, but from people previously who actually did just totally fall into procurement. They were doing something else. So it's refreshing to see that it's changing. It's always also interesting to see that you both had from National Guards to your military service, or I think Issy actually said paramilitary service. I'm not sure whether that she meant to say that, but but it seems that you both had that military background. Interesting, interesting. There you go. But great, Rowan. I think it's really interesting to see the number of industries you've been across as well, which demonstrates that, of course, procurement, like any other profession, what you bring into it is your skill in procurement, and you can be a little bit agnostic to which industry you're in, which is great. And I'll be really interested to see what the experience has been from you, Lucy, over in the UK.
Hi everyone, thanks for inviting me along today. My experience is similar to Rowan and Issy. Again, it's that age-old saying, like, we fell into procurement. My career started out as an apprentice working for local government authorities in the UK. And I did that for about 8 years and fancied a change. So I decided to study a business management degree. And I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go with that. You know, I thought I'd do business management because it covers a whole different aspect of areas that you could go into. And then I discovered a graduate scheme that the utility company that I was working for at the time were holding, and I applied for that. Unfortunately, or fortunately now, I was unsuccessful for the grad scheme, but the HR lady contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in a buyer role. And I guess I've already spoken to you guys about this previously, but my initial thought was like friends and Rachel and Friends, when she just thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be shopping for a living. That was what I initially thought. I was so excited. I thought, well, that sounds great. That's right on my street. But no, obviously in reality it's very different. But I was successful in getting the buyer role. And that's where my journey began, really. I started my CIPS qualification at the same time, which was great for me, coming into procurement and not really fully understanding what it was. CIPS gave me that, you know, that underpinning knowledge of what I was learning on a day-to-day basis and helped me progress through my career. I was a buyer for 2 years, and then was promoted to category manager, looking after my own sort of category of spend for the last 2 years. And it's been great. My journey into procurement has been brilliant. You know, I mean, I'm the type of person that can get bored quite easily, but with this role, I don't think people realise the variety that it brings and the challenges that it brings every single day. There's no time to get bored because you just don't know what you're going to get involved with. Same as what Issy and Rowan were saying. It's so rewarding as well at the same time, because every day is a school day, and I really, really enjoy it for that reason. But since then, obviously, I know you mentioned at the beginning, I've took a bit of a sidestep now into the educational side of procurement, which is something that's really been a keen interest to me, professional education and continued professional development, and which is why I wanted to join CIPS. I fully believe that, you know, the support that they give their members and the vision and that they're doing for the procurement industry as a whole is something that sits in my vision and values as well. And so I'm excited in my new role as membership development manager to support our members going forward and promote the profession.
Well, congratulations on the new role, first of all.
Thank you.
And it's interesting to get a different motivation as well, which I'm sure is probably, if we're all honest, more relevant to all of us. So Lucy did say she joined because her friend did point out that she's going out there just to do a bit of shopping, and how many of us identify as those people who basically get paid to spend other people's money. So no wonder you're all smiling, but there you go. Lucy did actually mention something interesting that which I'll probably focus on in terms of, did you, I mean, going into the profession, I think you started professional qualifications. So obviously everyone does your academic qualifications, whatever your degree is, but you took the option to actually take professional procurement qualifications as you entered the profession. How did that benefit you, do you think?
Is that to me? Sorry, Sam.
Yes, sorry, that's back to you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It benefited me in kind of like what I said, really. It kind of helped me underpin the knowledge that I was learning on a day-to-day basis. I was procurement focused, but I think what CIPS and the qualification gave me was a bit of an understanding about the supply chain aspect and logistics and operations as well, which is something that I wasn't necessarily directly involved with, but it gave me more of appreciation of that. Also, you know, in terms of dealing with negotiations, different types of stakeholders, and learning how to become a subject matter expert in such a short space of time, and learning to, you know, question people in the right way, and learning how to build, you know, specifications and sourcing and all of that good stuff that comes with procurement. Without CIPS, I don't think I would have understood it as quickly as I did and progressed as fast as I did. Yeah, so from start to finish, my progression has been a 4-year period, and I think alongside of the MCIPS and the MCIPS Chartered and continuing my professional development, it just helps you to become a better, well-rounded procurement professional, in my opinion. And
congratulations, because you did just achieve MCIPS.
Yes.
So congratulations.
After 3 years, I'm so pleased.
Fantastic. Great, thanks for that, Lucy. And coming closer to home, to Dubai, where I'm based, Sheikha, tell us about your journey into procurement. How did you get into procurement?
Well, I think like everybody else, by chance, by coincidence. So I've actually studied at university, HR. So procurement was never mentioned. Like, I knew about finance, economics, marketing, but procurement wasn't a subject that was discussed or, you know, taught in university. So the first job that I was offered was in tender committee secretary, just similar to Rawan's first experience. And from there, I got to understand about procurement. And later, I started off my career as a buyer. And just recently, 2 years ago, I joined the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority in the UAE. And honestly, it has been the best decision I've ever made. They have provided me with many opportunities to grow. And actually, TRA is the reason I'm here today. I would like to thank my manager, Suleiman, for providing me with this opportunity with CIPS, as we have undergone the ethical test. All the procurement department have done the certification, ethics certification. And now we're also spreading the procurement knowledge in the whole organization. So not just us as procurement section, but also all the project owners are also getting the ethics test. And also we've started 1 year ago, the CIPS qualifications. This was also an opportunity that I have got from TRA.
Fantastic. That really is an interesting journey. So and it is really refreshing to see the enthusiasm that everyone has still got in procurement, because it's not as if you started yesterday. I think Rawan was saying, you know, I think you got almost 10 years experience, and you're still smiling. So so great. Thanks for that, Sheikh. I'm going to go back and say, aside from the smiles and the positivity, and I'll go straight back to Issy. What were your main challenges? Have you had any challenges in your journey so far, and what were they?
Yeah. So generally, the challenges that come with the procurement function are it's the conception or misconception that the procurement function is just a quotation desk, right? Just give me a quote, and let me just help me buy, you know. But increasingly, and this is something that we've done absolutely very well in my organization, is to tell the story of procurement to our stakeholders, you know, what exactly is the value that we bring in the organization, right? And what is the value that we bring? We ensure that the organization is paying the right price for a product at the right quality, at the right time, getting it at the right time, at the right cost, ensuring that risks are minimized for the organization, and ensuring that cost is optimized, right? So the initial challenges generally were around, the procurement function being conceived as just a quotation desk, right? And getting the stakeholders to realize that there is much more than that, right? One of the common things with procurements, and I'm sure most of my colleagues will know, is that sometimes you get some last minute requests, but given the detail and the level of work and the compliance criteria that needs to be done, last minute requests don't help, right? Of course, it's good to be flexible and all of that. So those are the initial challenges, just trying to get the stakeholder to understand that, hey, this function, it's a strategic function, right? In most organizations, generally you find at least 40 to 50% of what they're selling, they're actually buying, right? So procurement has a key role to play in hitting the top line of organizations' finances and profits. So that's how those were the initial challenges, but I've also navigated them. And just like Lucy, doing the CIPS qualification, I think was one of the best decisions that I ever made, right? You get to see the world's best practices. You get to see that even these quote unquote challenges are not new. It's very detailed in the CIPS profession, in the qualification, where you go through stakeholder management, for example, which is a concept on its own. Stakeholder prioritization, where you have, the high impact and the low power, high influence, stakeholders. So the qualification is something that did enhance, my role, did enhance my day-to-day activities. And I think it's been great in terms of addressing any challenges I faced all along. Thank you.
Thanks, Issy. I think you made some great points there, because I was going to go straight over to ask you how you've dealt with those challenges, and what you did is you delved into some of your professional education, which is interesting because, of course, you are MSIPS as well, and as you'll know, one of the most highly weighted pieces of the CIPS curriculum is probably not negotiation, it's probably stakeholder management and influencing skills, and that then goes back to aim to give you the skills to deal with some of the issues you mentioned, to educate your stakeholders. If you're unable to successfully influence your stakeholders, then it's unlikely that you'll be able to successfully carry out the technical side of procurement, as you all know. So you could have answered the question for me. The question I was going to ask you, so you were ahead of the game. So I'll go over to Rawan. What kind of challenges have you faced?
Well, before I say the challenge, I have an advice for everyone who is joining procurement. I would say either get a new number or be prepared that your phone will explode with calls. The contact list is unbelievably long, but this is still, it's an advantage anyway. The challenges I would say for a procurement professional is just like Essie said, it's managing the stakeholders. This is the most challenging part. And also for me, at the beginning of my journey, not all the services or goods that I was procuring, I understood. So many of it would come to me, and I didn't know what this is, what this service is. So I had to either ask my colleagues or Google it, basically. So I've worked a lot in IT field, and I don't have an IT background. So when you're procuring for IT, it's a very big world, IT. And it's very challenging when someone doesn't have any idea, only just a computer and how I could watch Netflix in it. You wouldn't know how procuring for IT would work. But day by day, you get to learn it. And when you read a lot, ask your colleagues and the project manager and business owner as well. This will help a lot. So I would say, yes, this was my most difficult challenge for me.
think that's a great point, and that does focus on the fact that if you are going to work across lots of industries or lots of categories, yeah, you've almost got to become an expert to a very high degree to be able to speak with authority. So no, some great points.
Yes.
I think you've I think you've explained how you overcame those challenges is to get the knowledge of those categories. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, this is how procurement, I guess, you get a little bit of everything, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're a little bit of an expert in everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Without being one thing. As long as you're an expert in procurement, that's the main thing.
Of course.
What about you, Sheikha? So in terms of challenges you faced on the way, and how did you deal with them?
Well, I think as they've mentioned, stakeholders, difficult, especially difficult stakeholders, because dealing with stakeholders is not always a pleasant thing to do. So I've learned how to enhance my communication skills. I've learned about emotional intelligence. I've learned how to be patient with myself and other employees, or whether it's suppliers. So managing stakeholders is the main challenge. Another challenge is, sometimes in procurement, you have to make quick decisions. You don't have time to go and consult your manager or ask your colleague. You are being put in a situation where you just don't have time to do that. You have to take the risk, you have to take the responsibility, and you need to do it. So also taking risks, taking accountability, making decisions. This is also a challenge that you will face in procurement. But challenges will make you grow, will make you stronger. So yeah, these are the main challenges that I would thought about.
I think you make some good points, Sheikha, in that at the end of the day, we are business partners, and what you don't want is to get a perception that you're not there to add value and enhance the business. So yeah, you've got to come up with solutions. Referring back to a process, if that's not going to help the business, then you're not going to be seen as strategic. So it's good that you mentioned that. Although I did pick up a very good quote from you, which said dealing with stakeholders is never an easy thing. So I'll keep that one. Also, I think you said it's never a nice thing. I think you said, so I'll keep that one.
It's not very pleasant thing to
Pleasant,
do.
that's the one. There you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, I've recorded this, so I'll find it. Excellent, thanks for that. Lucy, so tell us, what kind of challenges have you come across?
I kind of just echo everybody else's, to be honest. I mean, what I struggled with when I got into the profession is with any other type of role that I'd done previously. Once you've been in it a while, you kind of knew everything. You knew what you needed to do. Whereas with procurement, you're never going to know everything. And that's quite a hard concept to grasp when you're used to learning a role and becoming the expert within it. Whereas everyone else has said, you never know what you're going to be dealing with from one day to the next. And again, the stakeholder issue, you've got to try and build their trust, get them on board. Not many stakeholders in my experience, where I've worked previously, ever saw procurement as a strategic function. They just saw us as like the gatekeeper to spending money. And, they wanted something and they weren't willing to go the right ways about it or get the best deal. So again, educating stakeholders on what our position is, what our role is, and, the objectives that we've got to fulfill in order to get the best value and the most economically advantageous position for the company. It's always a learning curve, and again, you've got to be the subject matter expert within a matter of days sometimes, and know what you need to know in order to have a successful negotiation or follow a process in a certain way. But yeah, I mean, the challenges are difficult, and you get challenges with all different types of roles. But I think the more you do and the more time you spend in procurement and those sorts of roles, is you get better at it. Practice makes perfect at the end of the day, and the challenges make it exciting. It's not a boring job, and as I said before, every day is a full day, which is why I found it so interesting.
Fantastic. And going back on your journey, we've spoken about your journey, how you approached it. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you would do differently to how you kind of started in procurement, went through procurement, and have traveled through your career so far?
I don't think I would do anything differently because I've enjoyed the journey, the ups and downs. I think having moved away from being in procurement directly now, if I'd stayed in procurement, I probably would have gone into a non-regulated position. So here in the UK, we have regulated procurement and non-regulated, and which is governed by the European Office of European Journal. And basically what that is there's a process by where if you're in public procurement, there's certain rules and regulations that you have to follow, whereas in private sector, you don't have that. My experience is obviously in the public side. I think if I'd carried on and continued in procurement, I would have liked to have seen the private side of it to see how negotiations and things would differ. And I think my advice to anybody getting into procurement is to try and get to see what it is from both sides to decide which way you want to go with your career. So I can't speak from that the private side, but yeah, from the public side, it's a good process to follow and it's very thorough. But it's very long-winded and very bureaucratic. That's the only issue that I would say I've had with that. And in terms of changing anything, I don't think I would. I think I would just continue. I would always do my CIPS, and I think I would always just continue to brush up on my skills and know what's going on in the industry and learn about what challenges and changes are coming and be abreast of those, because I think that can make a difference to any decisions that you make within your role.
That's some good observations, actually, and pulling out the distinction between public and private. Great observation there, because yeah, there is a massive difference, and it's actually probably similar wherever you go around the world. You know, in the UK, as you mentioned, you got the OJU. Although I don't know with Brexit whether you're still subject to OJU laws, but
well, no, we're not, but we're still following them. Well, we were in the organisation that I was in, yeah.
And I think it's pretty similar where you get into government procurement around the world, because you know that it is arduous and stringent and follows certain set rules, as I'm sure some of the others will say. Great, Rowan. You know, what would you do differently on your journey?
Okay, so there is nothing in specific that I would change, but I would like to raise more awareness to the fact that procurement is a function to support. It's not a function just to complicate things, just like the business owners or stakeholders would say. If we as procurement understand that we are a support function and we're here to support, to help the stakeholders get the best quality with the best offer and price, then things would be great for both parties, us and the stakeholders. So yeah, basically that's it.
Fantastic. Shaker, anything you will do differently?
Well, I would actually advise my younger self when I started my career to ask more questions. So when I started off my career, I thought procurement, you know, was just about getting quotations, doing a PO. I was afraid to ask the end user, why do you need this? Do you really need this? Why do you want to go with this supplier? These questions will make you learn more about procurement. So I would definitely ask more questions, whether it's the suppliers or the business owners. I would be more patient, because I didn't have the patience before. So I would be more patient because procurement requires a lot of patience. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great, and I think that's it's an interesting point to your younger self, and I'm presuming that those are attributes that you've now added to
Yes,
how you work in
definitely.
procurement. So it's just you kind of wish you had added them earlier, type of thing. But I guess it's an evolution, isn't it? So
Definitely, yeah.
I would imagine your younger self would not have known those. So so I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, is what I'm trying to say. What about you, Issy? What would you have done anything differently?
No, actually, I think I've been I'm very thankful for the entire journey, to be honest. And one thing that helped me really was pursuing the CIPS qualification right as I was doing my, right as I was working. So at every point in time, I was seeing very familiar references in my textbooks. You know, I was saying, oh, okay, this is why we do this at work. This is why we have to have this board, for example, to approve a quotation. This is why we have to approve, we have to have a board to approve a supplier, for example. So I think every step of the way, the mistakes, the highs, the lows, I think has contributed and culminated into the more confident procurement professional that I am today. So I wouldn't do anything differently. I'm thankful for the entire journey and the moments.
Fantastic. So no regrets. You're on the right path, is what you're saying. Excellent.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go to questions from the audience shortly, because there's quite a few questions that I'd like to put to the panel. But before I do that, I think let me just go back and ask, what's your ultimate ambition or your goal in what you do? Where would you like to be, and when would you like to be there? So I'll go to Lucy on that first. What's your ultimate ambition in your career?
So now that I've joined CIPS, and it has been since the start, I guess, is just to continue promoting the profession. I think it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. You know, it's great that we're doing this today because not many people know what it is or how to get into it. But it's a really rewarding career. And I think that with everything that's going on at the moment, with obviously Brexit in the UK and the pandemic, it's becoming more and more profound now, and people are starting to take notice of it. And so, yeah, I think I would just continue to shout about it, and anyone who is a member of CIPS, I want to continue to make sure that their journey is an enjoyable and rewarding one. And anybody who's not a member of CIPS who wants just a little bit of information, just continue to help support them through their careers, and yeah, kind of just develop and grow myself in the industry as well. Because I just don't think it's ever going to get boring, to be honest. I really enjoy it, and I hope that my enthusiasm is passed on to other people today.
Fantastic. I'm sure it certainly has, in terms of the audience and your fellow panelists, without a doubt. Rowan, lots of very interesting and ambitious things going on, strategic things going on in Saudi Arabia at the moment. But where do you see yourself in the future, and what's your ambitions?
Okay, so as a procurement professional, and being and having an experience of almost 10 years, I saw that how procurement was 10 years ago and how it is now. The importance of procurement now is way different than the past. It is more people knows how important the procurement is, but it's not the level that we hope to be in. And I see that my job as a procurement professional is to raise this awareness. We need people to understand what is the procurement role specifically, because sometimes people get it confused for other roles, such as, they think that you're just someone who would give them quotation and that's it. It's not. This is not how procurement works. We need to be with the business side to side from the beginning. If you have a project in your pipeline, as the business owner, it is always beneficial to include procurement, because we're going to be planning strategically with you from the beginning, even if the project is like, let's say, for the coming year or after. We would find ways and solutions of how this project will be procured and how to get the best quality and the best service for this project with the best price. This is one part of it. And the second thing is always engage procurement as early as possible. Try to avoid, the last minute procurement or purchases. This is, even in your personal life, when you go shop for the last minute, of course, you're not going to get the best offers. And so it applies as well in the business world. Now, being in Saudi in this time, that Saudi has this new vision 2030, and there are many authorities and many organizations that are establishing at this moment. So I would see myself pursuing my career in procurement and be a part, an effective part of helping my country reach to the vision of 2030 with our day-to-day work. And of course, involving and be an inspiration for the younger generation as well.
Fantastic. So really your ambition is to be there as part of driving the change in the perception and the makeup of procurement. Great. Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, Issy, as you know, I know your boss Maha very well. So what's your ambition? Is it to take her job?
Yes. No, but I see myself definitely becoming a CPO. And very soon, actually, that's my ambition. And just like the ladies have, echoed, the procurement function is a strategic function. There is a lot that we do that we really, really need the early involvement of stakeholders, right? And another thing also is that you find that in the procurement function, like I alluded to earlier, you get a breadth of experience. I don't know that there is any other function within organizations where you get to interface with all levels of stakeholders, different levels of seniority, CEOs, sales directors, and even from a very early stage, you're given a portfolio and you're responsible for it. So just like Shekhar was saying, you have to be able to take quick decisions. You have to be able to withstand some risk. I think all of this has groomed me, and I really see myself, looking forward to leading a procurement function, to sharing this experience, to encouraging more people to join the profession. And ultimately, people say that, I think you see that the procurement function, people might perceive it that, you just stay in procurement, but you can't even become a CEO after pursuing the procurement profession. And if you look at Tim Cook from Apple, for example, he started from CPO to CEO. So that's ultimate goal, leading a great organization, but definitely seeing myself CPO.
The sky's the limit. It's great to see that ambition, and we'll be happy to track your journey. So Maha, watch out. And Shekhar, does your boss Suleiman have to be concerned?
I guess so. Well, of course, you should have ambitions, and my goal is to be an expert in this field in procurement. As I've mentioned, our country and my organization have been very supportive. I need to be the best in this profession. And honestly, CIPS have also helped us to implement the best practices and international standards. So thank you also to CIPS for this. I'm actually handling the IT category. So I want to be, an expert in this field. I want to be an expert in IT. I want to understand what I'm purchasing. Maybe one day I'll be a consultant, we might be a benchmark of excellence. So basically, yes, this is my goal, is to implement best practices in procurement, be a benchmark in excellence, and specifically be an expert in IT procurement. Yes.
Fantastic, and of course, IT procurement is a big growth area.
It's the future, actually. Sooner or later, everything that we will purchase will have an element of technology.
Absolutely, you're in the right place at the right time, Shekhar. There you go.
Thankfully.
Fantastic. Well, great. Well, thanks for that. I think look, let's get to some of the questions from the audience, because there's a load of them. So let me just put the first question to the panel, so whoever wants to answer can. And the question says, can you talk about are there any specific challenges of being a woman in procurement? Any one of you who wants to answer that?
Okay, I'll start. When I joined procurement years ago, I actually, in the department that I worked with, tenders department, all the buyers were men, and the only two females working in this department were myself, an admin assistant, and the office manager as well. So we were the only two females in the department. And the way I saw it, like, why it's only men? Why don't we have females in this department? It's not, rocket science. I mean, like, we can do that. So I started also having conversation with other ladies working as well, and I found out that ladies, not only ladies actually, but people do not have an understanding of what procurement is and what is the profession itself. So day by day, and years actually passed by, and suddenly females in procurement are now a very, very big number, which I'm very proud of. And to be honest, the previous organization that I worked with, the percentage of female in procurement was actually above 50%. So that was an amazing thing to see within a couple of years, you know? So I'm very proud of this progress. And yes, it was challenging at the beginning because there wasn't lots of ladies who would be in this profession, but it is very promising now. And I do see the future leaders of procurement females.
That's a great answer, and actually, I think we don't even need to talk about the future. There's several very senior ladies in procurement across all regions in the world at the moment. So, but I do take your point.
If I can add to Rawan,
sure.
At my organization, we're actually 75% in procurement and contract women. So we're actually 6 against 2. So yeah. Women are
women empowerment.
The future is women in IT. Women in IT are the future. And it's a great testament that within your journey you've seen such a massive change. No, that's great to hear. And another question. Sorry, Lucy, were you going to add to that?
No, I was just going to agree. My experience has been the same. I mean, I think in the past it's been very male orientated, but in my experience, it's kind of been a 50-50 split, and right. Women had the same respect as the men did. So it's been refreshing. It's been nice.
So I guess the trajectory has been probably different in different regions, but ultimately I think we've all caught up and we're all in the same place. Issy, what would you say from your experience?
Yes, and no, I think it's very good to see the increasing amount of women that are coming into the profession. What will be more important for me to see as well is more women in leadership in procurement, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the statistics around that is less women in leadership in procurement compared to the young professional roles or the managerial roles. And I think exactly with fora like this, where women get to speak up and raise their hands and aspire to leadership positions confidently. I think we'll see more women in the procurement, more female leaders in the procurement profession.
I think that's a very good point, and I think that will be the testament, and I'm sure we see some of them on this panel right now. The next question that came up was, are there specific challenges that millennials, or I guess younger professionals, have in procurement roles or in the workplace, and how do they overcome them? Anyone?
I can start with that. Yep. Yeah, I can start with that. I think the first thing is, the millennial generation is known to be the job hopping generation, the instant gratification generation, apparently, but the beauty of being a millennial in procurement is that you can experience or you can move within roles or you can do different things in the same profession. So I think generally millennials are known to want to try different things. They want to have a different experience. But with this profession, you get to be able to do that because I could literally be buying a phone today and I do need to find out what it is about this phone, what are the specifications, so I get to know about a phone. Tomorrow, I could be buying a warehouse, for example. So I do need to find out what are the requirements of a warehouse, what are some of the insurance terms, what are the terms and conditions we need to have with our suppliers. So it's interesting, like when you talk about millennials in procurement, we get to have the millennial experience whilst being in procurement. That's something that I thought to highlight. In terms of challenges, I think the only thing I would say is that the procurement function does have certain rules and guidelines and principles, right? And generally, I think millennials are creatives. More millennials are more creative. You want to try something new, you want to try something different. But what I've been able to do is to not take that as a challenge, but bring my creativity even whilst abiding with the rules. So, you know, even the way you interface or you interact with your stakeholders, you can bring your personality into it. You can bring yourself into it, you know, and get to still fulfill the requirements while still, you know, pursuing your real self or your millennial self. So that's something that I wanted to highlight.
So what you're saying is almost it's probably not about the challenges millennials face. Actually, there's a lot of positives and agility that millennials bring that are unique to millennials in terms of overcoming problems and issues, almost like your superpower, as it were.
Yeah, because you can turn it's essentially turning those challenges to opportunities, right?
Fantastic. I'll go to another question we got, and actually this question has come directly to Issy. So if you stay on there, it says, Issy, how do you source a product that you buy for the first time?
Aha. Time to school you on the procurement process. So generally the procurement process and the function, what we represent is fair buying, you know, fair practices, fair buying practices. So if I'm going to buy a product, go into the market, we have something called a request for quotation, an RFQ. You go into the market. The market these days it's a virtual market, it's an online market. So either you have a pool of suppliers in your database, or you're looking for new suppliers that you want to onboard. So first of all, the first thing is to get with the stakeholder and identify what exactly do they need, right? I think most of the time stakeholders know what they want, but it's also important to know what they need. So you could hear a stakeholder, for example, saying, if I use the phone example again, I want an iPhone, or I want a phone with iOS 13 software, But then getting the stakeholder to work backwards to say, what exactly do you want this phone to do, for example? Do you want it to be able to take nice, fancy pictures? Do you want it to be able to do certain, is it really an iPhone that you want? Or could you consider maybe this Samsung, for example, can also give the same features, or this product could also give the same features. So the first critical step is getting to work with the stakeholder to really identify the need. Then after, you go into the market and put a request for quotation out. So sharing the specifications to the to the potential buyers and saying, we want this product, these are the specifications, this is the quantity. You get the different quotations that you receive, the stakeholder, the supplier's bid. You get the different, the different prices. And then ultimately, it's also joining back with your stakeholder to say, what is the most important thing, right? From a procurement point of view, we're generally believed to be more cost conscious, right? But increasingly, and being a strategic function, price is not the only determinant. We have to get the most economically advantageous tender. So in the bids that you've received, which of them provides the most economically advantageous? And that could be even with delivery, you could get a cheaper price, but a better delivery term from a supplier, or better warranty terms. So essentially, if I could just summarize, conscious of time, identify with the stakeholder what they need, open an RFQ, get potential bidders, define the most economically advantageous tender. In some organizations, you have something called a board, where you approve the selection of the supplier, and that's it. Approve the correct supplier, or approve the supplier that meets the requirements.
Thanks, Issy. And I think ultimately what you're saying is, if it's a new product, then the most important thing is you're doing the homework internally before you even go out to the suppliers. And I think that's what's really come out strongly. So it's a new product or service, you're not already doing it. So that's where procurement comes into its own in a way, because at that point you're actually testing the market. Thanks for that comprehensive answer. We got a question now directly for Rowan, and it's saying, Rowan, in the banking sector, what kind of procurement is more important? Is it soft services or others, such as technical procurement?
Okay, so the biggest spend area in a banking industry, I would say, is IT. It is the most concentrated, I would say, area. The IT, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's software, new automation, system upgrade, whatsoever. This is the most parts where procurement gets involved, and this is actually the main projects or the biggest projects of the banking industry. I am working as a procurement manager for the IT category, and I have been working for the past 5 years, I guess, for IT as well. So joining the bank, I used to work for IT for different types of IT services like hardware and equipment. And then when I joined the bank, there were IT projects related to the ATMs and so on. And it was really challenging for me at the beginning, but having good relationship and communication with other stakeholders made me understand more what is the how can we actually procure IT for the banking industry. Challenging yet interesting.
Definitely challenging and definitely interesting. Thanks for that answer. Slip over to Shaker for another question we have. How has the pandemic affected your role, if at all?
Honestly, it was a positive impact rather than negative.
Interesting.
We had plenty of time to, go and review the contracts, have long-term agreements, fix the prices, focus more on the strategic partnership, because, at the end of the day, you need a supplier who will deliver, who will give you priority on delivery, on stock availability. So definitely it gave us time to focus on strategic relationship with suppliers and reviewing contracts. Yes.
So that's interesting, actually. So you're taking the positive side of the impacts of the pandemic. So great, very interesting. And I think just looking at time has just flown by. A very, very interesting discussion. I'll go to the final question, which I'll put to Lucy. Lucy, what do you see as being the future of procurement?
The future of procurement. I think we're going to see a lot of automation. As the ladies have already said, as technology has completely taken over how we do things now. And automation in terms of procurement processes, I think, is going to be key, especially with how we're all working at the moment, from a distance and virtually. And cloud computing, I think, is going to be a big one. I know we were looking at that recently in the organisation where I was working at. And I think there's going to be more focus because of that on soft skills and, sort of focusing on building relationships with people and learning how to, sort of negotiate in a way that's more of a people to people sort of way of doing things, which I think will eventually speed things up. I mean, the processes of procurement, particularly in my experience, and as I say, the regulated side of stuff is very slow. Whereas I think with technology and the way it's going now and in the future, I think it's going to speed up a lot faster. And I think procurement in terms of what we buy is going to be more accessible on a global scale rather than just local. That's my opinion.
Almost providing that Amazon effect to procurement.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that any of the other panelists wanted to add to the future of procurement? You all concur with Lucy, and I think it was quite a comprehensive response. I think Issy just wanted to mention something.
Yes, I mean, just to add on to what Lucy has said, just procurement being the strategic function, the function that the organization continues to rely on before making, the critical decisions, because ultimately what we do is about adding value to the organization, ensuring that risks are minimized, ensuring that we're purchasing at the right price and, optimizing costs. So more strategic partnerships with our suppliers, more strategic partnership even with our stakeholders. Stakeholders continue to rely on procurement function and say, I can't go ahead with this until I have procurement in the room or until I have sourcing in the room.
I think that's fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
look, we got a myriad of questions from the audience. Really do apologize that time is against us. We're not going to be able to get through them. So I'd just like to thank all of the audience for participating and being with us today. Last but not least, our fantastic panelists today done a fantastic job and really given some great insights. We literally just didn't have enough time to go through some of the insights they could have given. So Lucy, Izzy, Rowan and Shaker, thank you so much for giving up your time and being part of this webinar. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
all.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
And to everyone else, thank you, and we'll see you at the next webinar. All the best. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.